football clubs.
Brighton and Hove Albion have been playing at the Farmer Stadium since 2011, which prepared them well for the Premier League. They have never seen crowds like now, so are they a big football club?
Subscribe now to see how they compare with other big football clubs.
Brighton do not have any major domestic titles, and although growing in the last few years, they cannot say they have one of the highest home attendances. Their recent success does not show up on a graph comparing their titles and support to the other clubs in the Premier League, so let's dig a little deeper. Brighton are not without silverware. Curiously, Brighton won the Charity Shield in 1910, when as winners of the Southern League they beat league champions Aston Villa. They have also won the 3rd Division thrice and the 4th Division twice. With European football for the first time in 22-23, they're still quite a way off actually winning any European titles. Support keeps growing and growing. Election into the 3rd Division and their first 3 decades spent playing other small clubs on a weekly basis meant Brighton were far away from the biggest clubs in England when it came to attendances. But by 1959 they were playing 2nd Division football for the first time, after winning the 3rd, and this caused a spike in attendances. Though not to the same extent, this happened again in 1965 when they won the 4th Division title. Back in the 3rd Division, the excitement wore off, and it was not until promotion to the 1st Division that things really improved. Indeed, Brighton experienced high enough attendances to compete with the average, but this quickly tailed off after relegation, and it's no surprise to see woefully low turnouts when descending into the 4th Division. Due to financial pressures, the club sold off the Goldstone ground after calling it home for 95 years. As tenants at Gillingham, some 70 miles away, it was not easy to improve their appallingly low crowds. But moving to the more local Withdean Stadium and with improving league positions, figures improved. But it was the building of their own Farmer Stadium when things were able to really take off. Winning the 3rd Division and a vastly improved capacity changed the club's fortunes, and promotion to the 2nd Division encouraged the expansion of the ground. Stability in the Premier League has guaranteed regular attendances above 30,000, and this cannot be matched by any period in their history. Brighton played in one of the Cup Classics. All but relegated, Brighton had nothing to lose and overcame a strong Sheffield Wednesday to reach their first ever FA Cup final. The now relegated Brighton went close to winning the '83 FA Cup after taking the lead, then with a last-minute opportunity saved by the Man United goalkeeper. But they were denied the chance to lift the trophy when they lost 4-0 in the replay. Perhaps the most crucial was the relegation decider against Hereford United. Bottom of the league for 6 months and at one time 11 points adrift, Brighton managed to get back on track, and the 1-1 draw was enough to match Hereford on points. This was all they needed, as outscoring them over the season trumped Hereford's superior goal difference. Although not a classic, the defeat of Wigan in 2017 secured Brighton's promotion to the Premier League, which has enabled them to thrive. We've had good players, but keep selling our stars. The high turnover of Brighton players during their most successful time in the Premier League makes it hard to add them to a best ever 11. The most recent player is from their last championship winning side. Most of the players are from their consecutive 4th and 3rd Division title wins at the turn of the millennium. 2 stars from their early foray into the 1st Division, and long-serving Bert Stevens from the 30s and 40s. We've now settled at the top. Brighton and Hove Albion's Charity Shield win was when they were in the Southern League, 10 years before their election into the Football League. When they started out in the league, they were a 3rd Division side during their first 3 decades, but won the 3rd Division in 1958. They spent times in both 2nd and 3rd Divisions in the 60s, but were generally still a 3rd Division side. Change came at the end of the 70s, when they were promoted all the way to the 1st Division. This was a peak for the club, who made it to the FA Cup final in 1983, only to be relegated that same year. After a few years in the 2nd Division, and after a push for promotion, they slid down gradually to the bottom of the league. It was ultimately financial issues that dragged them down, and in 1997 they were threatened with going out of the Football League entirely. But a few years later they were able to win successive division titles. And after a few struggles in the third division, after gaining financial stability, Brighton gathered momentum over the years to make it to the Premier League, and their best ever finish in 6th place in 2023. Until recently, Brighton had spent most of their time in the third division, with some seasons in the second division and well spell at the top, but this changed in 2017. Winning the Charity Shield but no major titles is a bit of an odd combination, and this win was a very long time ago. Their first effort at European football was not a great success, and it remains to be seen if they can improve on that. Historically, attendances have not been large, but there have been impressive numbers in some seasons, and home matches tend to sell out when Brighton are at the top. History indicates this may drop off badly whenever relegated again. Brighton can say they've played in one FA Cup final classic, but their other big games were about survival and promotion. With one outstanding star and a few recognisable names, Brighton have not had the very best players in history, and the selling of their best players makes it difficult to say those players were at their best when at the club. Brighton and Hove Albion had a slow start to the league and have spent most of their time in the lower divisions. They've had 2 spells at the top, which means they're a club worth mentioning, but they'll need to start winning trophies before we can say that they are one of England's
big football clubs.
Brighton's crowds have shot up since joining the Premier League. Would Brighton's fans still turn up if they were relegated?
Please comment below. Like and subscribe to Big Football Clubs to watch videos as they're released each week.